quick thoughts about Man City loss.
Okay, I'll focus on the Man City loss. I think for the Man City loss, my initial thing was I didn't want it to come to having to get a result at Man City. Like, by the way, so we won't talk about the games that led to that. But I think Arteta was very naive in that Man City loss. And what that means is I think he trusted his players, which, fair enough. They've performed so far this season. But I think it's one of those things where, maybe your old boss or your ex-girlfriend, and you want to show them that, hey, I'm a big boy now. And then you're not thinking properly. And then you're thinking you can just go show off and not kind of know where you are. I feel that that's a bit of what he did there. So personally, I wouldn't have done the 4-3-3. Even though that's, with inverted wing backs and all that, we normally have done all season. But I feel like he needed to approach that almost kind of knowing where we are, and especially now that we needed something, and just suck it up and play something differently. Go back to what we did in the FA Cup, 3-5-2, and then just hit him directly in the wings. That's what I would have done personally. And all the chats, that's what I said in terms of formation. And fair enough, I guess he decided to go with what's got us to where we are so far. But I think the mistake was he did that, but then the players weren't sure what they were doing. Are they pressing high or they're sitting back? And then they're caught in this middle. And the ironic thing is, what's his name? Pep actually ironically respected what Arsenal's done so far and actually switched it up for us and decided, is like, you know what? I'm just going to hit you guys direct and take advantage of second balls. So it's interesting that the guy who's done it over and over, you would think he would be the one that would stick to his philosophy, but really he's like, okay, you guys want to do this? And we fell for it, right? So that was like a terrible approach to the game to begin with. Now on to the players. Again, these guys have the confidence has been shot from the previous games, which we talked about. And I think the one player that I do, again, it's not even an excuse. I'm just talking tactically. And I think when I was in the podcast the last time, I did say we can't do it without, as long as Saliba and Partey stay fit. I think that was kind of why. I had him through Jesus the other time. Well, no, actually, he was already injured. Yeah. Ironically, Partey is playing like garbage now. And then Saliba. But again, Saliba, the kind of player he is, not blaming him, sometimes holding. Saliba is a player that can break the lines, bring to transition, and then all of a sudden he has space in midfield. And because he knows he can take the risk, if he loses the ball, he can run back and get the ball, right? Holden sits back. And so things like that, it affects, and that's what's been affecting us. But long story short, we approached that game very, very naively. And I don't know if it was confidence, like Saka. I don't remember him taking on a Akanji once, even if it's just to the byline, where you're not necessarily going to beat the player. I literally was watching the game, and I don't understand. It wasn't until the guys came on in the second half, the game was done at that point. So there's a lot of things confusing for me. Anyways, those are my thoughts on that.
Okay. Before I go to the only one comment I have to that is like, I think he didn't did Saka touch more than 7 times? Saka probably didn't touch more than 7 times. Saka. That's the only comment we have to that. So like when you say he didn't take him on, he didn't even have the opportunity to even be one-on-one with Akanji more than 4 or 5 times all game. So they didn't even let him be one-on-one. I don't think they even let Saka turn most of the game to even face anybody. The press was ridiculous. What are your thoughts, Arinze, about the game? Quick thoughts about that loss.
Yeah, so my first thing was, when you're going into that game, you hang in there for as long as possible, right? Just make it tight for long, don't concede. And maybe if that means going to a back 3, so be it. I'm not really a fan of switching to back 3s with the opponent, but at the same time, you can still approach the game a little bit differently, right? You don't have to change formation to be a little bit more defensive. You can still keep your shape, same formation, and then just hang in there, right? You're away at City, hang in there. And I feel like with Arsenal, we haven't, and it's just essentially we're a maturing team, we're a young team, so we're either really hot and overconfident, at least the last like 4 or 5 games, right? Or we're really scared. And the moment for me personally, I knew that the title was gone was the second half of Liverpool, right? Even before we conceded, because we turned into a shell of ourselves. We were dominating that game. And in the second half, you could literally see the players and the coaching staff, Arteta included, looking at the clock for it to count down so they can leave, right? They were hanging on for dear life. And it was at that point I was like, okay, I don't think this team has the, Man City, when they're playing, they're so ruthless, right? It's almost like they're like robotic in the way they do things. They're never really too high and they're never really too low, right? They're just kind of like, it's the same. That's why it's like sometimes watching Man City can be boring. If you're a football fan, you're just like, they're just straight to business. And I feel like with Arsenal, West Ham, Southampton were either really, really overconfident or were really, really like low on confidence. And I felt like by the time we got to the Man City game, we were essentially like a shell of ourselves. And to talk about the balance thing with Saliba, I think essentially, Ray mentioned this. Once Saliba is part of the team, I feel like between Partey, Gabriel, Ben White, everybody starts overcompensating a little bit. And all of a sudden, the balance of the team is completely off. And while Rob Holding might not be a bad player in his own right, like one-on-one, just the whole balance of the team, he's just not Saliba, right? There's no two ways about it. And so the whole balance of the team is off. And so my big disappointment in that Man City game was, okay, hang in there, don't concede. 7 minutes in, you're conceding. And it's like, I mean, at this point, you have to score, right? At Etihad, number one. And then you have to try to score twice to at least win the game in a game that you actually had to win. Yeah. But to me, it's essentially, it's a hangover from the Liverpool second half that has just kind of continued. Either we're like, oh, we're playing at West Ham and we're very excited, we're back, and then we concede one goal and then we just go into our shell. And then we go to Southampton at home, pressure, and somehow concede in the first, 5 minutes. So it's just been a hangover from that second half of Liverpool. And after that, I just knew that it was done.
The topic of the day, Idris, this Lampard experiment, bros.
I'm laughing already.
Before Lampard took over, let me set the stage. Before Lampard took over, I remember I looked at the table then because I knew that this was like red flag. Like I don't know if anybody has seen this Jamaican meme, one lady, where she's just talking. She was pretty much giving advice to women how to spot red flags in men, right? And she literally had the flag. That thing is one of the most hilarious thing. She say when you see a man, I can't do Jamaican accent, but like when you see a man, like for a man that doesn't pay for first date, then she goes red flag. She rose the flag like a very big red flag. That's how that was going off in my head when I saw that news. Like what? And that's why I posted on our chat. You saw what I said. This Chelsea execs, their decision making is spooky. It was a spooky decision to me. I was like, whoa, Lampard, whoa, like you cannot do this. When they did, I was like, what? Lampard. So, anyways, that's the stage. I looked at your points then, right? Chelsea was comfortably 7 or 9 points. I remember above Palace. Palace are above Chelsea now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Villa too. I'm sure Villa were behind Chelsea.
I don't understand.
Villa fired their coach. They hired an actual coach. You can make fun of him in Arsenal, good evening, but I can assure you if good evening actually was playing against City, he's not dropping points because he has experience. Just saying, you didn't give him time, but that's what under the bridge. If good evening had this run, good evening is playing 20 man behind. If he has to get to City, that's just the experience. But finish.
About the Lampard experiment or hold on for your dear life. I have to put it there because that's kind of
hold on for your dear life. Fam, where do I start now? Let me put time in my head so that I'm not piece of EJ in the editing so that I can quickly Ray's like, let me leave. I really say it.
I'm going to make a joke.
Let this guy cook.
I remember this is a family-friendly show. I was going to make a joke. I was like, no.
You were talking about red flag. Let me do my small imitation. If he breathes, red flag. If he eats, red flag. If he even wakes up in the morning and says good morning, red flag. Like anything, that's Lampard to Chelsea. Straight up. Why do I say this, right? Like when you asked me what would we like to change, and I said that like there's no point. Let me see. Do you think Lampard should be sacked? Fine. He should be sacked. I won't bother texting, wasting data to sack him. He's security guy that will walk him out. this kind of like when when you're bouncing somebody, you're like this. That's it. Like, why are we talking? Why are we wasting data? Why are we wasting money? Anything. But then again, it's a son of the soil. It's an Omo Onile. There's a reason why I'm using this word, because somebody also, you remember the statement about privilege, and I want to be careful about it, right? He literally, in fact, he's the reason everything is where they are right now. Somehow, he gets the Chelsea job. And you remember, even when you were like trolling me and saying, "Oh, it used to be," because I've always liked Lampard.
Yeah.
Well, I've also tilted. You know me, I'm about at least me, I know I'm hyped for people I support, but I will always, if you give me data stats and you put context based on my background and my job, I am forced to swallow the pill and pivot my point of view. That one I know as a person, I will do. That's my personality in life. Lampard has shown nothing in the last year and a half that he deserves any job as a top manager. Any job, even in championship, as a manager. That's facts. This is not to like trash the guy, talk ill about the guy. He's not worthy of that position. If the likes of Patrick Vieira can be fired, if the likes of Good Evening can be fired, someone like him should not be there. That's fact. Yet somewhere along the line, and I really think I am biased, and forgive me if it comes across very biased. I have this issue as a person who spent most of his life in the Western world, looking at privilege a little more with some form of disdain. And I notice it very, very common, and we don't want to talk about it, but it's very common among our Anglo-Saxon brothers. They're not going to admit this thing. If Roman owned that club, Chelsea wouldn't be where Chelsea is right now.
Absolutely not. No.
We all know this, but somehow, and we've beat this when we're talking about morality in football and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You took a club. Now you're saying anybody that buys into the Premier League has to have this, whatever. You bring the Americans in. As usual, it still remains an old boys club where you guys are familiar with each other. They like the American accent. The Americans like the British accent. And it's always that same, you know what I mean, click. And then you make crazy decisions. And then people are watching you guys saying it's not up to standard. It's not based on what's it called, like performance. It's becoming crazy. When they fired Tuchel, I understood, and I still to tomorrow admitted, when it comes to an employer having a conversation with an employee and it's not working, you got to go, even if you're performing. We all understand that for project management, building a team, executing a project. But when you hired Porter, we have an expectation. We know it was looking bad. But you signed a whole bunch of players before this guy comes in. This guy comes in, you also sign a whole bunch of players. Then you put embargo on certain players like Aubameyang, they can't play because their contracts are running out. You're freezing out certain players while you sign other players. So we've bloated it a lot of like lack of team camaraderie, right? We've broken whatever form of chemistry we're supposed to have as a team. And then fine, you fire the coach. Bring anybody. Bring anything. Honestly, they could have gone and grabbed Emma Hayes, the Chelsea female manager. And I'm not even saying that as like to disrespect her.
No, I know what you mean.
Like Lampard can't lace her boots. Let's be real.
No, that's true.
I've heard a punditry. We've seen her work in the female team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She might have broken the glass ceiling and managed us to the end. You know what I mean? They bring a guy that failed. And then here we are. And it's unfortunate because no matter what we change, there's something broken in the Chelsea team.